There he is.
Hi, Fearne, how are you doing?
Jono, I'm really, really good. And I'm so glad that at last we've managed to do this because it's been a long time coming. I've been following you on Instagram and loving all your videos. And it's given me so much to think about this week. And I've actually been asking a lot of my friends on text, what do you love about yourself? And my friends have been sort of found it excruciating and near impossible. Like one of my friends said, oh, I don't think I have got anything. Why do you think we're so bad at this, Jono?
I see you've just hit the nail on the head like a moment ago when people try and go, I like, and they always try and get that like in first. And you're like, no, what do you love about yourself?
Yeah.
And again, I don't know if it's, we want to be modest and we don't want to boast about things that we love about ourselves. And people may think that we're arrogant or something like that. But I don't know. It's so easy to find those negatives, and especially in the current situation. And it's just something that we're never asked. We never talk about. And over the years as children, we don't think about those things, do we? So, it's just not part of our makeup to think about things that we love about ourselves. So we definitely need to change that.
We do. And I love that you're doing your daily videos every day for a year of one thing that you love about yourself every day. It's been a really wonderful thing for everybody in your community to take part in, and real food for thought. And I've just seen a couple of comments, like someone just said, what if you don't love anything about yourself? What do you do there? I mean, it's how a lot of people feel though. And I've felt like that about myself at points in my life. And I know that this hasn't been how you felt for your whole life, Jono. I know that there's been moments in your life where you really haven't loved yourself. How did you make that switch? How did you find that thing within you that allowed you to cultivate positivity and self-love and say out loud, I love this about myself? What helped you with that change?
Fearne, I spent a good part of my life hating everything about myself. It started off with my face. I have Treacher Collins, which has affected my appearance, and I hated my eyes. I hated the fact that I looked different. I hated the fact that people stared at me, and it just manifested into so many other aspects of my life. I hated my birth situation. I even hated my friends because they had a face that I wanted. I wanted a face like yours. I wanted that just a regular, normal face, and it just manifested into so much more. Hating the world, hating everybody in it, and it took over my world. And it wasn't up until in my 20s that I started to have a change in mindset, and through a lot of trial and error, and I did make a lot of mistakes, but we all do, and that's part of learning. It's part of growth. It's part of healing. And now I've done this daily routine where I've tried to make it a daily practice, and it is challenging. Normally I just check in every now and again with myself. What do I love about myself? But doing it daily is on another level, and it's got me thinking even deeper and digging even deeper, which is just brilliant. So
yeah,
and you can do like silly things as well, but you can also dig really deeper for like the bigger things.
But I think that's what you've done over the last sort of few weeks that you've been doing this challenge, because I think we should all start doing this. I think it's a really positive thing for everybody. Even if you leave a comment on Jono's page, everybody watching, and say the thing you love about yourself, brilliant. That's all part of the community activity. Or in a little notepad. I've always got millions of notepads lying around wherever I am. It's a nice challenge to every day write down one thing. And often we're so tied in to our backstory. Like, again, I've seen so many people just now, and it's so heartbreaking, saying, I hate myself too. And it's because we're so tied in to our backstory, whether we believe we've made mistakes, we all have. everybody on planet Earth has made mistakes, whether it's because we didn't reach a goal we thought that we should, or whatever it is, we don't fit into what we think we should be doing in life, that we create this story that then allows us to really sink into self-hatred. It's so easy to do. You know, I've had it probably more recently in my adult life around parenting, feeling like I'm not getting this right. You know, I got cross there, and you can really go into self-hatred so easily. What would you say is the best way to get out of being so tied to a backstory and all the negative thoughts that you have just going around your head?
So my mindset was, I ain't no expert, Fearne. I kind of just do me, and I share, and people share the things that have worked for them, and that is brilliant. But I got into this routine where anything bad happened in my life, I would say it's because of my face. I wouldn't be in this situation if I had a regular face. I wouldn't have made that bad judgment or that poor decision if it was because of my face. So I did have to take responsible for my own thoughts and my own actions. No, that was just a poor decision. That was just something, that was just bad luck in other circumstances. And then as I've got older, it kind of happened by chance. So I was 21 years old, and I'd just been in this journey from hiding away to started living a little bit. And 21 years old, I got a job in a gym. I had a massive obsession with trainers, and I hated mirrors. I hated looking at my reflection. And as a child, as a teenager, I would have a horrible day, and I would sit in my bedroom. We'd have this, in my mum's room, we'd have this big, massive wardrobe with a mirror in the centre. And every day I got home from school, I got home from football training, shopping with my mum, I would look bang on in front of this mirror, and I would just push my eyes up, and I would just stare in this mirror. And I just used to cry with so much anger and so much pain, because I wanted to change my face. That was the answer to everything. As I got older and I couldn't change my face, I hid that mirror. I avoided all mirrors. I avoided windows. I looked at the floor, hood up. I've shared some dodgy photos, but then I used to give myself this dodgy bodged up bowl cut where I used to try and hide my face with my fringe. And I hated my face, and I hated reminders of that I looked different, and that carried on up until my 20s. And then I got a job in a gym, surrounded by mirrors, and honestly, I used to go to work every day avoiding mirrors. It was just so bizarre, and I ended up teaching classes, and I'm trying to give demonstrations, and I spent so much time looking at my trainers or looking at my butt, because I didn't want to look at my face. And then one day at 10 o'clock at night, I'm putting all the weights away at the gym, all the big boy weights, 40 kg dumbbells that are just left around. Skinny old Jonathan's trying to put these weights away. And they're always in front of mirrors. And I'm putting these weights away. And again, oh yeah, I like my new trainers. I'm wearing my little short shorts. I'm wearing little short shorts now.
Oh, look at those. They're fantastic, Jono.
I love my short shorts. I'm loving in this moment, I'm loving my trainers, I'm loving my legs, and I'm loving my bum, and I'm like, oh my God. And I'm on this roll, and I'm working up my body, and I'm like, oh yeah, I love my chest. And I always stop here. Always stopped here. And I don't know why, but 21 years old in this moment, in this gym, love my trainers, love my legs, love my butt, love my chest. And I got to my face, and instead of feeling that embarrassment or feeling the urge to push my eyes up, I smiled. It was like first time in 20 odd years, I liked what I saw back. And like when I smile, I've got this little dimple. And I was like, oh my God, that's just so cool that I have one dimple. And it was just an evolution, and it came by accident, completely unplanned, this moment in this gym. And then it's just kind of manifested from that. And yeah, I dig deeper now, but it's something that happened accidentally, and definitely encourage people to try it, especially on Valentine's Day as well. Valentine's is coming up, and I never got Valentine's cards. Girls would used to ask me out as a dare or as a joke, or you'd go to school and there'd be these kids that carried around these big, massive envelopes, and it was a boastful thing, and it was a popular thing, and I never got one. All the cool kids did. And as I got older, I participated in Valentine's Day, and I'm thinking about all the things that I loved and admired about somebody. I wrote them down, and you'd give them this card, and they'd feel like 10 feet tall, and they'd feel like the sexiest person on the earth. And I'm like, why don't we do that for ourselves?
Yes.
So, yeah. So
it's
3 years ago.
It's such a good point. And I love that. Thank you for sharing that story about that, as you call it, you know, an accidental or perhaps unplanned moment where your perspective just shifted. And I think it is so often the case that, you know, I had this conversation recently with, I won't give it away, but it's a guest of someone who's coming up on the next series of the podcast. And they said something that just switched my perspective on so many parts of my backstory. And it was, don't believe any of the negative thoughts in your head. Not some of them. Don't believe any of them, because none of them are true. None of them. And that is really a big thought to take on. Like, how can none of the negative thoughts be true? But they're not. You know, none of that negativity is true. It's just your mind having thoughts. Thoughts don't exist. They're not tangible. You know, they're just thoughts. And, you know, if you have a perspective shift, you can move from a place where those thoughts are causing you pain and suffering and leading you to possibly make more bad decisions. I've certainly done that in the past when I've been in a negative mindset. And you switch that and you think all of this is just chat in my head. It's not real. There's no truth in it. And then you can start to actually sink into just the love that is omnipresent. We've all got love in us. It's all there. We just get so dragged into these stories and these things that we tell ourselves. And it's really beautiful that yours was an unplanned moment that just arrived in your life, but that you also grabbed hold of that and then made that much more of a daily practice and a habit to get into. Because that's where I think, you know, why people so connect with what you're doing on Instagram is that it's a daily discipline. Certainly at the moment, I know you've talked very honestly before about life, but at the moment it is a real daily reminder, like, oh yeah, what positive thought could I think rather than a negative? And going back to sort of looking at, you know, our backstories and how we can get so stuck in what's happened. I mean, I know that you've talked very openly previously about rejection, and you were adopted at birth, and you've since, you know, throughout your life and adult life, felt at times rejected, and also really looked at that, like stared rejection in the face and sort of unpicked it. Could you tell us a bit more about, I guess, where you're at with that today, and how you are healing or have healed from that process and those feelings?
So again, when we're talking about the negativity and I guess the chapters in our life, or our stories as traumas, what have you, I think the big one for me, and I even used to say it myself, and whenever I do an interview, they'll always tend to caption, this man was given up for adoption at birth because of his face, because of his parents. Some stories have made it even more negative and said that I was given up for adoption because I was too ugly. And growing up, I have shared that I was given up for adoption because of the way I look. And now, as an adult, you know, I was placed for adoption. That is it. There is no extras. I was placed for adoption. I don't know what happened with my birth parents. I don't know what was going on in their hearts, in their heads. Those two people gave me life. And again, it's shifting that mindset from, I just used to look at that and just think it was such a negative thing, but no, it's that was my start of my life, and it's down to me to live it. And when I'm even when and going on the next step, when I love fitness and I love training, and when I'm trying to motivate myself, I always used to call myself horrible names to motivate myself. Like I would call myself a bitch all the time. Come on, you bitch, and that's not good enough. That's not good
Yeah.
enough, generally. But and whereas now I'm so much kinder to myself. Again, I'm letting go of that negative vocabulary, and just changing the whole thing into more positive, more encouraging, more nourishing, and it's been massive for me. And when we talk about rejection, um, yeah, I experienced that twice with my birth parents, and that was very hard. When I go through relationships and they're working towards the end, in the past I've clung on to them because I didn't want to be alone. I didn't want to be rejected again, and I've stayed in relationships longer than I should have been, and yeah, that's again left me very, very vulnerable. So, as well as being kinder to myself, um, I'm aware of it all now as well. I'm always constantly thinking and processing and evaluating it all. And sometimes I'll cry, and sometimes I'll feel sad and alone as I relive experiences.
Yeah.
But I think that's really, it works for me. You know, it does work for me.
And I've talked to lots of people over the years about rejection, because I think it's such a fear that so many people hold, and it can really stop you from forging new friendships, new relationships, or even trying new things because you're almost anticipating rejection. How have you stopped that from being your story now? Because you're really out there with what you're doing. You're bold, you're connecting with people every day, you're engaging with an audience, and you're doing brilliant things, and you're raising awareness constantly. How have you stopped that that fear of rejection from letting you progress and fulfill your dreams and do all the stuff that you want to do?
I again, it's when we're having these conversations, there are no quick fixes. There are no. It's not happened overnight. These past 5 years, the more I've shared what's inside, the deeper connections I've made with people, friendships, partners. So many opportunities have presented themselves. People give back, and I guess those bonds are a lot stronger. And I'm not saying I'm talking to these people every day. I'm not saying that I've fallen in love with all these people and we've become life partners and life best friends and stuff like that. But connections have been really true and honest, and I'm just aware that it's a safe place. They are people that I feel safe with because I have shared it all, and there's no hiding, there's no filter. This is me, and that's been, when it comes to rejection, me owning who I am and being comfortable with who I am has definitely been massive, and been really, it's helped me a lot. I still, don't get me wrong, I still get worried that I'm going to be alone and on my own or something like that. I have those moments, but I do know that on my own I am safe. I will forever be my always. Every night I go to bed, I have a heart that beats for me, and I have a head full of thoughts, and they're my thoughts, and I'm safe with them and I protect them. But the more I share, the more I open up, the more I show the world my smile, the stronger that comes. And I feel like I've created a safe place around me full of incredible people, and some may stay, some may go. But my world is a little safe place now, and it's, again, it almost feels like it's been done by accident. You're trying to ask me how have I done this, and honestly, Fearne, I don't know. I just feel like it's just been a massive trial and error process, you know.
Yeah, but I think that you underestimate how much you're manifesting all this stuff, because I think that's often the way. Like, personally, it probably does feel quite accidental, but I think you are putting out good vibes and you are creating a beautiful community where people are so engaged with what you're saying, and you're helping so many people. You know, what you're doing is preaching to people, saying, be you, like, be you, own it. Like, that is going to change your life. And I think so often we push against who we think we are, and we try and rebel against it, or we try and be a better version of ourselves, a stronger version of ourselves, whatever it is. And you're talking absolute common sense when you're doing your interviews, your talks on your Instagram. Just be you, and own that, and your life will, I mean, you've proved that your life will quite literally transform itself. And that's why I reckon it does feel quite accidental to you, but that is your momentum now, because that is your mindset. And I wonder how much of that is practice. Like, from that moment where you were working in the gym at 21, and you smiled, you clocked your cute dimple, from that point on, is it just practice? Is it that simple? We just have to practice being us and liking ourselves.
I had a girlfriend at the time, and she would always used to joke that I was big-headed, or I thought about myself a little too much, and she was very aware of that I was doing it. I am being serious. I do love myself, but and she was joking on that, and the more I think about when I was 21 and those times, it did become more of a thing for me. But before that, I tried to rely on other things. And before that as well, trying to be somebody else was so tiring.
Oh.
Like, I've got so much more energy now. The things that I used to do to try and be happy, I wasn't happy with myself. I wasn't happy with my face, my backstory. I wasn't happy with any of it. So I would lie about my birth parents. I used to, I kind of had it in my head that my birth mum was Debbie Harry, blonde hair, singer. My dad was the guitarist. And when I was happy, my mum's hair was bright blonde, and they were happy. And then when I was angry, that blonde hair was grey and faded, and they were more old, worn, and my story kind of changed. And then those stories about my birth parents kind of manifested to what I used to do for a first job. When I was talking to people, I would lie about things that I've done, experiences. Oh yeah, I've been to this country. Oh yeah, I've done that. And when it came to sex and relationships, I shared that I'd had sex with various other people, and that just didn't happen for me. And it got so tiring. And then it also kind of manifested into, I wasn't happy with my appearance, so I obsessed with my body. I had a really bad relationship with food, sunbeds. I would dehydrate myself. I felt like I needed abs all year round. I would look at celebrities and see what they were wearing, what they were doing. I would spend all my money on designer clothes because I thought if I was wearing a label, that would give me something. And I had to do all these things to be happy. And it's a load of tosh, and it really, really is. And I'm talking to you in this ridiculously old vintage shirt that I found in my mum. It's like 40 years old, and I haven't been to the gym in a year. I've not had my hair done properly. I'm not relying on filters, sunbeds, sex, alcohol. I'm just me. And the more I'm not just me, I am me. And the more I am me, when I do meet people, they're real friendships. They're real, true, honest relationships. And I don't have to hide, and I don't have to lie. I'm me, and it's just so uplifting, and it's so empowering.
It really is. I mean, I've seen quite a few people saying, I love Jono's sassy shirts. I do too. It's fantastic. But it's, you know, it's so funny because we know this. We know that seeking either outside validation or buying stuff or attaining goals, whatever, is gonna fill that hole or make us feel complete, make us feel better about ourselves. We know it's not going to work, and we still bloody do it. We still do it. You fall into the trap of, if I could just get this job, have the perfect partner, have the right pair of shoes that everyone else wearing at the moment, have a six-pack. You know, we think we're going to feel different. Like, we know we're not. It's got to be that inner contentment, or even like the willingness to do the inner work, to look at all of our pasts and the things that have troubled us and things that have tripped us up, and all the thoughts that go along with that really hold us back. And that's not an overnight thing. Obviously, this is like, you know, you make that decision to really dive in and dig deep and do it. But it's like you say, when you're forging friendships and you're in relationships, they're real. That's the real deal. And you know, what's better than that? On that note, I watched one of your videos the other day, Jono, and you were talking about isolation, which was so interesting because at the moment we find ourselves in another lockdown. People are either shielding or isolating if they are ill, or are just keeping their distance from a lot of other people. You know, we're encouraged to stay home. And you talked about the fact that 15 years ago you had chosen to isolate. You had made the decision that you didn't want to be in contact with other people because of the negative thoughts that were going around your head. And I wonder if you could sort of share a little more on that and where you're at today with that.
So I got to tell you guys about my mum who adopted me. When she met me, she was in her 40s, single lady, lived in a council house, kind of worked in a fish shop, and decided to be a foster carer for children with disabilities. And they spoke to her about myself and asked them if she wanted to meet me. And she was like, yeah, I'd love to meet this boy in hospital. And she's always told me that they spoke about my face, my appearance. This just went, Jean, she's not even 5 foot. She's absolutely tiny. And so everything goes over her head. But obviously when they were talking about my face, yeah, straight over her head to get some more. And she met me, and she's always told me when she first saw me, she couldn't help but smile. And when she first held me, she just felt this instant connection, this instant bond, and turned to the social workers, the nurses, when can I take him home? And that was when I was 2 weeks old. For the next 5 years, Jean raised me along with her family. And she just gave me so much love. She took me to London for my surgeries. And she created this safe place for me. And I felt loved. I felt special because of that consistency, because I found eventually I was placed up for adoption when I was 5, and Jean was like, he's mine. And Jean became my forever home, my forever family. And I just felt like a regular kid. I celebrated my birthday, and I celebrated my adoption day. I just thought everybody kind of got 2 birthdays. When I went to school, I just thought it was so cool that everybody had to take the birth certificates in. I were able to show my adoption certificate, and I just loved being a little bit different. But then as I got older, that's when I started noticing kids would pull their eyes down. They would fold their ears over to mimic. I absolutely love my little Bart Simpson ears. They don't get cold in winter. They don't pop on flights. I just do absolutely love them. And I used to boast about these things. But as I got older, the things that I loved about and I boasted about all of a sudden turned into the things that kids were being cruel to me about. And they were my favourite things. And those things were being used against me in the most horriblest of ways. And as I got older, I started to struggle. I didn't know who to talk to, and I didn't know who to seek out for advice. And again, my mum, my 4-foot superhero, I would always ask her why. And we used to have difficult conversations, and she always would say that I was beautiful. And as I got older, I stopped believing my mum and started believing the bullies, the negative comments. And I did start to withdraw. I started to isolate myself. And there were two moments I was thinking about today that were just like nails in my coffin. Me and my mum went to Great Ormond Street, and I used to have an operation, or I'd have a checkup. My mum had made me do homework on the train down. She'd always get me a microwave pizza from the trolley, and it was maths homework on the train. But she always just tried and make it fun, so she always took me to Piccadilly Circus. So I'd been to Great Ormond Street Hospital. I was about 14 years old, and we was on the tube going to Piccadilly, and there was a couple sat from across from us. And I was at the age where I started realizing about relationships. And I looked at this couple. They were like sickly all over each other. And I'm looking at this couple and I'm thinking, oh my God, I know that's a little bit gross, but I want that. I hope I have that. I used to listen to Celine Dion and Meatloaf back in the day, all their power ballads. And I was like, oh, I'm going to be like such a romantic. And I prayed somebody being into me as that much. And I just looked at this couple and idolizing them. And then they saw me. They acknowledged my face and they started laughing towards one another. And at 14 years old, I was like, yeah, this is my life. This is the realization that I am different again. Everything was kind of bittersweet. I'd have a happy moment with a little a horrible ending. And my job in London was, my mum wasn't comfortable and confident around London, so my job was to tell my mum when we were getting off the tube. So I was like, Mum, even though this has just happened, I had a thick skin. I developed a thick skin, and I started to hide a lot of my feelings from my mum. So I was like, Mum, Piccadilly Circus, it's our stop, ours is next. And the tube stops, and we both get off, and I'm off the platform. And I look round and looking for my mum, and my mum's on the tube, and she's saying something to this young couple. And then she steps off, and the doors close, and she just follows the tube as it leaves, and she doesn't lose eye contact with them. And she turns around and looks at me, and I just see this tear rolling down her cheek. And it was one of the first times where I kind of realised that my mum the people around me were seeing this too. And I was so embarrassed, and I felt kind of guilty that I'd upset my mum. And again, it was like another nail in the coffin, where the easiest way to deal with this was to isolate, or was to avoid these situations. And again, by not talking, by not sharing anything that was going on in here, my world became darker and smaller. And yeah, that was tough. That was a really, really tough place to be. And another example, do you remember the film Cruel Intentions?
Mm.
Yeah, I watched that when I was a kid, and the lead character had a long black coat and a pocket watch. And I'm so easily influenced. So I was like, oh my God, to be cool, I need a long black coat and a pocket watch. So again, I'm like 14, 15, and I begged, my mum didn't have much money, so I begged my mum to buy me this long black coat, which she did. And she gave me some money to go shopping with. So I went to Sheffield, and I'm like, oh, I had my black coat on, my dodgy bowl cut that I did myself, and I was like, I'm going to buy a pocket watch. And I went to the sunglasses huts, like the little small sunglasses, watch things. I didn't really know anything, so I'm just going to go in there. And I walked in, and there's two girls, and I'm so proud of this new coat. And the two girls behind the counter just burst into hysterics, just both looked at me and just laughed, ran into the back. And I'm like, oh, whatever. I carried on looking at the watches and the sunglasses. And then one of the girls came back out, and she'd stopped laughing, and she's kind of help you. But during that she started laughing again and ran off into the back. And again, I went into the toilets at Meadowhall in Sheffield, and again looked at my face in the mirror, and I was like, no, I can't do this anymore. So yeah, I've got so many memories that just have these. In a moment, I'm thinking this couple are amazing. In a moment, I'm thinking I'm so badass in my coat, and then just so quickly, there's a reminder there that I was different, and I found that really difficult. I'm now 36. I don't look 36. I know that's what you're thinking. I'm still young and youthful.
You are.
And it's just evolved so much. I am aware people stare. I am aware that there are at times people will make fun of me, but I'm aware that people think I'm badass, that they love my ass, they love my personality, my energy, my aura. And there's more of those people in the world than there are the others, you know. And I once thought my backstory, my face would prevent me from finding friendships, from finding love. But no, it's not. Those two girls in the sunglasses hut, the couple on the tube, you know, it's those sort of attitudes that are going to hold you back in life. It frustrated me that it took me a lot of years to realize that, but now that I'm here, you know, I feel like I'm a baby and I'm still learning about life, and I've just got this energy and this love that's just taking me to places that I never even knew existed. And I'm blessed to travel the world, and I meet strangers in the most weirdest of places, and connections are made, and I just feel so blessed. It's pretty special. And again, my face hasn't changed. My face hasn't changed. I do, and there's no filters. There's no sunbeds. There's no alcohol. There's no. It's just me. It's me, and I love it.
It's your mindset, and it's remarkable. I mean, God, thank you again for sharing these stories. You do it with a lot of courage, and you're a beautiful storyteller, and it's a real roller coaster listening to you talk, because you're mentioning these heartbreaking moments and things that you shouldn't have gone through, and like you say, you've got the wisdom now and the life experience to go, those people will be held back by their attitudes. I will not be held back by anything. And you're proof of that. You're so respected and loved by the people in your community, and you're doing something so meaningful, and you're creating so much help for people and just positivity. Like, my God, we need some positivity at the moment. Life is weird, and there's a lot of fear out there. There's a lot of negativity out there. And there you are, just spreading positivity and joy. And, on behalf of all the comments that I've been reading and seeing during this beautiful chat, everyone just thinks you're a bloody legend, which you are. And just so many people saying how much you've helped, and how they want to share your story with their daughters. A lot of young girls who are going through a lot because of social media, and how there's that sort of aesthetic comparison always, and these new weird ideals that I seemingly can't even keep up with. And you're bringing it back to common sense and saying, own it, be you, own it. That's the only way we're going to feel that inner peace and happiness. And you're bloody brilliant, Jono. I know you already know that, but you're bloody brilliant. And I love watching what you do on Instagram. And I urge everybody who's watching this chat now, or if you're not watching it live, I'm going to post this on my feed. Follow Jono. He's got all the wisdom. He's got, oodles of positivity and joy to bring us all. And I can't thank you enough for sharing your stories today. I know that it's not necessarily an easy thing to just sit there and go back in time like that and tell us your stories. So I really, from the bottom of my heart, thank you, Jono, for telling us that today.
Well, thank you for the opportunity to share. I stopped sharing years ago. I stopped sharing, and it definitely kept me behind a wall or behind a rose-tinted glass. I felt like everybody was living something and connecting, and I was kind of experiencing life in my own bubble or behind a wall, behind a glass. Whereas the more that I've shared, definitely so much has happened. I do go into school, what you've just touched on. I do go into schools, or pre-COVID, I used to go into schools, and I used to think that I was talking to people with a facial difference. That's how it started. A family got in touch with me. Oh, Jono, can you come to our daughter's school? My daughter's got Treacher Collins. We just want to educate the class, the school, so they don't ask questions, and they're not, hopefully it'll reduce the bullying. So I was a nervous wreck, and I shared my story in front of this entire school, and I showed them my hearing. I wear a hearing aid. I showed them my hearing aid. I dropped my hearing aid on the floor. It was a disaster. And then we went out. My bottom lips, as soon as it started, good morning everybody, and you know, when all the kids are, good morning Jono, all in sync. My bottom lip started to shake. I'm like, I'm going to cry. I am going to cry. It was a disaster. And the bell went, and we all went out, and all the kids ended up in the playground. My taxi had turned up, and I was like, right, I need to go. And then all of a sudden, this little kid's come over, just like, oh, can I see your ears? I was like, yeah. So I showed him, he's like, oh my God, they're so cool. And I used to tell the kids that I used to turn my hearing aid off, so I didn't have to listen to my mom, or I didn't listen to the teachers. And the kids were like, oh my God, that's so cool. And then a student came over and started talking about they felt sad about their freckles. And then within a minute, the entire school was flooded around me, just talking, asking questions, sharing stories. And I was like, I have no idea what's going on right now, but I thought I was talking to this one girl, but I'm talking to this entire school. The caretaker came up to me and started sharing something about their leg and how they're embarrassed about their leg, these adults. And I'm like, and then the head teacher shares something. We live in a world obsessed with image, obsessed with looks. And I think that's difficult for every single one of us, and especially with social media and filters and how people touch photos up. It is tough on them. And if we share something and we don't get that many likes, or somebody puts more makeup or shows more skin and gets more likes, it's encouraging. It's a minefield. It is a minefield, but we're in it together, and we try and encourage everybody to do themselves.
Do you. Be you. You can't be anyone else. And like you said earlier, it's bloody draining, tiring work trying to be someone else. Be you. And, you know, John, I'm sure that we will talk. We need to do another talk, I'm sure, because there's a whole other chapter we could go off on. But, you know, we're not going to be able to ever stop people posting pictures that are only about what they look like or using filters, whatever. That's going to go on. But I love that you are, you know, balancing that out or combating that somewhat with just talking common sense and encouraging people to be them. And I think we should all kind of make a pact today, like the lovely group of people that have watched this live, and also when this goes on the feed, just let's all, you know, either on Jono's Instagram, write down every day one thing you love about yourself, or privately on a bit of paper. See what happens. See what happens as an experiment. See how that lifts you for a couple of minutes, an hour, could be a whole day. Let's all like make a pact here now that we're going to try and do that, because I reckon it's going to really help us all out big time. And like, you know, you did a video the other day, Jono, saying, I'll be honest, guys, I can't think of anything today. And that's also all right. You know, but just go back to it every day. Like, what is it today that I love about myself? Can I find one thing? It's a really powerful thing to do. And you've really, you know, put that at the forefront of my mind at the moment, Jono. And I'm definitely going to make that pact to myself that I'm going to do that in one of my many notepads that I've got in front of me. Jono,
and
go on.
We just need to remember as well,
go on.
Nobody can take that away from you. And people will try and put you down. They will say negative things towards you. But when you think of those things that you love about yourself, you keep that in here, and that's yours to keep forever. They're your things. Keep them safe. If everybody can share on the comments what they love about themselves, I'm sure we'll see so many amazing things. And you might have to start small. It might just be in your head, might be written down, but hopefully one day you'll be able to say it out loud. Because I'm at the point now where I love my face, and 15 years ago I couldn't even look at my face. So please start. It's so uplifting and life changing. And thank you, Fearne, for giving me the opportunity to share and talk.
Oh, so, no, Jono, honestly, thank you. What an absolute roller coaster of a conversation. We should definitely do this again soon and have a catch up, and also, you know, see how people are getting on with the self-love stuff. Jono, big love to you. I feel so boosted after talking to you, and we need more Jonos in the world. That's what we need.
Thank you, Fearne. I honestly, I appreciate that so much. It fills my heart up some more. And then people do message, oh, I'm sure you get that message all the time, and you get tired of hearing it. No, he never gets tired. So honestly, thank you, Fearne. It means so much. And you're doing amazing things as well. You're enabling and facilitating so much goodness and so much positivity. So thank you. Thank you so much.
Thanks, mate. That's really sweet of you. Thanks so much, Jono.